My son texted me, "You're out of the company. Do not contact us again. This is final." I replied with just 2 words, "All right then." Right after that, I set my phone down and started cutting off every bit of his access. I secured the entire property portfolio my late wife and I had spent our lives building. By the next morning, my phone showed 46 missed calls. He thought I was old enough to be pushed aside, but he overlooked one crucial detail. I was the one holding the keys to every door. Thanks for being here with me. Quick question. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? And have you ever made a split-second decision that changed your entire life? Let me know in the comments. Your story matters. My name is Robert Hale. I'm 60 years old, and I spent 30 years building Hale Properties from a single duplex into a portfolio worth $850,000 here in Indianapolis, Indiana. My late wife Eleanor and I started with nothing but a dream and a willingness to work 7 days a week. We fixed toilets at midnight. We painted apartments on weekends. We learned property management the hard way, one tenant at a time. But nothing in 3 decades prepared me for what happened on a Thursday afternoon in late February. I was at the office in Fountain Square when my phone buzzed. A text from my son, Lucas. I picked it up expecting something routine. Instead, I read words that stopped my heart. "You are out of Hale Properties. Do not come to the office. Do not contact us. Claire and I are moving forward without you. This is final." I stared at the message, read it once, twice, 3 times. My own son had just pushed me out of the business his mother and I built together. For about 30 seconds, it felt like the ground tilted beneath me. Then the part of my mind shaped by decades of managing risk quietly took over. I didn't call back. I didn't argue. I typed one word, "Okay," and hit send. Then I opened my laptop. If they wanted me out, they were about to understand what that actually meant. I logged into the Hale Properties LLC portal and changed the password. Then I went through every account, every system, every access point, and revoked Lucas's signing authority. I revoked Claire's as well. Every permission tied to my name, I locked down. Next, I called Mark Sullivan, the real estate broker handling the 8-unit apartment building we were about to close on near Butler University. "Mark, this is Robert Hale. I'm withdrawing from the 8-unit purchase effective immediately. I'll send written confirmation within the hour." He asked if everything was okay. I told him it would be, then ended the call. After that, I called Andrew Cole, my financial advisor for the past 20 years. "Andrew, I need you to freeze any changes to my retirement accounts. Nothing moves, nothing gets restructured, nothing gets signed without my physical presence and written authorization. Can you do that today?" He said yes. I told him I'd explain later. Right now, I just needed it done. Then I emailed Evan Brooks, the newer advisor Lucas had insisted we bring on 6 months earlier. Effective immediately, all prior authorizations are revoked. Any transactions involving Hale Properties LLC or associated accounts require my direct written signature, dated and witnessed. Do not process any requests that don't meet this requirement. I documented everything, every password change, every phone call, every email, carefully recorded. By 4:15 that afternoon, every door they thought they could walk through was locked, and I was the only one with the keys. By 6 that evening, my phone started ringing. Lucas first, then Claire. By the time I pulled into my driveway in Butler, Tarkington, it had rung 7 times. I walked into the house and set the phone on the kitchen counter. It kept ringing. I didn't answer. At midnight, I turned it off without checking who had called or how many times. I sat in the dark living room where Eleanor and I used to watch television together. The house felt too big, too quiet. "I hope I'm doing this right," I said out loud to the empty room. The house didn't answer. I woke up Friday morning to my phone vibrating against the nightstand, buzzing in short bursts over and over. I turned on the screen, 46 missed calls, 21 from Lucas, 15 from Claire, 8 from numbers I didn't recognize, and 2 from Samuel Reed, the attorney who had handled our LLC formation and every major legal document for Hale Properties. Those last 2 calls made my stomach drop. I checked the voicemails. Samuel's message was calm, but there was an edge to it. "Robert, this is Samuel Reed. We have a serious problem. Call me back immediately. Do not sign anything." I called him at 8:15. He answered on the first ring. "Can you be at my office in 30 minutes? "I'll be there in 20. At 8:45, I was sitting across from his desk. He had a folder open, LLC operating agreement amendments, membership transfer forms, signature pages. These were filed with the county clerk 2 days ago, he said. Lucas submitted them. They show Claire being added as a managing member of Hale Properties LLC with full signing authority. I leaned forward. I never signed those. I know, Samuel said, turning one page toward me. That isn't your signature. Someone forged this. The curve on the capital H is wrong. I stared at the signature line. He was right. These are dated February 10th, he continued. 2 weeks before Lucas sent you that text. This was planned. I leaned back. February 10th. 2 weeks of forged documents before they ever said a word to me. There's more, Samuel said, picking up his office phone and dialing. Andrew Cole. When Andrew answered, Samuel put him on speaker. Robert's here with me. There was a pause. Then Andrew's voice came through quieter than usual. Robert, I need to tell you something. Lucas and Claire came to see me 3 months ago. They said you were starting to forget things, that your memory was declining. They asked me to help move assets into their names. Something cold settled in my chest. And what did you say? I asked. I told them no, Andrew replied. I've worked with you for 20 years and never seen any sign of memory problems. I told them if they wanted changes, they needed to bring you in. They never came back. Samuel ended the call and dialed another number. Evan Brooks, the advisor Lucas had brought in 6 months earlier. Evan, this is Robert Hale. I need to know what Lucas and Claire told you about my involvement. Evan hesitated. They told me you had already approved everything. They said you wanted to step back and that you had signed off on Claire joining the LLC. I approved nothing. I said, if anyone presents documents claiming otherwise, demand dated proof with verified signatures. Then I hung up. 3 months. They had been building this for 3 months, spreading stories about my memory failing, creating false narratives, forging documents, and I had been blind to all of it. But now I was awake, and I needed to know exactly how deep this went. By Saturday morning, I realized the damage wasn't just legal. It was everywhere. My reputation, my community, even my own home had been used against me. At 9:15, I met Howard Palmer for coffee on Massachusetts Avenue. Howard and I went back nearly 20 years to the Indiana Property Management Association. We were 10 minutes into the conversation when he said something that stopped me cold. So, Lucas is taking over because you're retiring for health reasons. I set my coffee cup down. What? Howard looked confused. That's what I heard. Someone mentioned it at the association meeting Thursday night. Said you were stepping back, that your memory wasn't what it used to be, and Lucas was transitioning into full control. Who said that? I asked. I don't remember exactly. It was just going around. People were saying it like it was common knowledge. The rumor wasn't just with financial advisors. It was inside the professional community. People I had worked with for decades were hearing stories about my declining health, my failing memory, my voluntary retirement, and they were believing them. Howard, I said quietly, I'm not retiring. I'm not sick. My memory is fine. What you heard is a lie. His face changed. Robert, I'm sorry. It's not your fault, I said, but you need to know the truth. Lucas and Claire are trying to force me out of my own company. They've been spreading false stories to make it look legitimate. I left the diner and drove home to Butler Tarkington. I walked into my home office and opened the filing cabinet where I kept personal business documents, the one Lucas had a key to. I'd given him that key 3 years ago when Eleanor was sick. I pulled out the folder labeled Hale Properties Operating Documents. Inside were drafts and papers I had never seen before, amendments with Claire's name added as managing member, transfer forms, signature pages with my line marked pending in Lucas's handwriting. He had been working on this in my own house, under my own roof, using the key I gave him out of trust and love. This wasn't just a legal fight anymore. This was a battle for my name. At 3:30 that afternoon, my phone buzzed. A text from Rachel Turner, my cousin on Eleanor's side. She had always been observant, the kind of person who noticed what others missed. The message was short. You need to see what Claire has been saying about you. Call me. I called. Rachel answered immediately. She's been posting things online, Rachel said, about you, about the family, calling you toxic, saying she's escaping financial abuse. People are believing her, Robert. I closed my eyes. How long has this been going on? Since yesterday. right after you locked down the business accounts. She's trying to control the story before you can. It was a two-front war, legal and reputational. A public character assassination happening in real time while I was gathering evidence in private. They weren't just stealing my business. They were stealing my name. 30 years of credibility in this community, being dismantled one lie at a time, while the people supporting her had no idea they were endorsing a falsehood. I couldn't fight both fronts at once unless I gathered enough proof that the truth could speak louder than any lie. Sunday morning, my phone rang again, but this time it wasn't my son or his wife. It was someone who worked with Lucas every day, and what he told me confirmed what I'd been suspecting. "Mr. Hale, this is Trevor Walsh. I work with Lucas. I'm the assistant property manager. I think you need to know what's been happening." I sat down slowly. I barely knew Trevor. Lucas had hired him about 3 years ago to help with day-to-day operations. He was young, maybe 28, good with repairs and tenant issues. "Go ahead," I said. His voice was quiet, like he was afraid someone might hear him. "I've been worried about Lucas for months. He's been different, stressed. Claire shows up at the office constantly. She sits in on meetings. She makes decisions. It's like she's running things, and Lucas just goes along with it. He doesn't seem like himself anymore." "How long has this been happening?" I asked. "Since maybe November. It started slow, but by January it was every day. She'd tell him what to say to contractors, which properties to prioritize, even how to handle tenant complaints, and Lucas just let her." I thanked Trevor for his honesty. After we hung up, I sat there thinking about my son, about how Claire had slowly taken control, about how I hadn't seen it happening. Monday morning at 8:20, I received a forwarded email from Mark Sullivan, the real estate broker who had helped us evaluate commercial properties for the past 5 years. The subject line was simple: "You need to see this." The email was from Claire, sent Friday afternoon to Mark and 3 other brokers we worked with regularly. "Dear Mark, I am writing to inform you that Robert Hale is experiencing early-stage memory issues and is no longer capable of managing complex transactions. For all future Hale Properties business, please contact Lucas Hale and myself directly. We have full authority to proceed without Robert's involvement. Thank you for your understanding during this transition. Claire Hale, Hale Properties, LLC." I read it 3 times. She had put it in writing, not just rumors, not just whispers at meetings. An official message to business partners claiming I was mentally incompetent. Mark's note at the top of the forward was brief. "Robert, I received this Friday. I've paused all current discussions until I hear directly from you. Professional ethics require verification. Please confirm your status immediately." I sat down at my computer and typed my response. "Mark, I have no memory issues whatsoever. I am fully mentally competent. The 8-unit transaction is permanently canceled due to unauthorized attempts to proceed without my consent. Any claims to the contrary are false and defamatory. I am copying my attorney and financial advisors on this correspondence to ensure complete documentation." I signed my name and hit send. Then I forwarded copies to Samuel Reed, Andrew Cole, and Evan Brooks. Within an hour, I had responses from all 3. Samuel used the word actionable. Andrew used the word fraudulent. Evan apologized for ever believing their story. By Monday afternoon, I had professional witnesses, written proof of defamation, and a clear pattern that couldn't be dismissed as a misunderstanding. But there was still one crucial thing I didn't know. What was Claire Hale really after? Why push this hard? Why move this fast? Why risk everything on forged signatures and false claims about my mental state? Lucas already had the partnership. He had access. He could have waited for me to retire naturally in a few years. This level of aggression didn't make sense unless there was something else, something I hadn't seen yet. I was about to find out. Monday morning at 10:45, Samuel Reed called back. This time his voice was different, quieter, like he'd uncovered something he wished he hadn't. "Robert, sit down," he said. "While I was reviewing court records, I found something else. Claire hired a divorce attorney, for herself only. I was standing in my kitchen. I sat down at the table." "When?" I asked. "February 10th. The room went still. "Say that again." "February 10th, 2 weeks before Lucas sent you that text." I stared at the tabletop. Eleanor and I had picked it out 17 years ago. Lucas had done his homework. "What firm?" I asked. "Miller & Shaw, divorce specialist downtown," Samuel said. "She paid a $7,500 retainer from an account in her name only. She kept it completely separate. She was planning to leave him, I said slowly, before they even tried to take the company. That's what it looks like, Samuel replied. She initiated it. I walked to the window. Outside, the February sun was weak and cold. What's her plan? I asked. Samuel paused. She helps Lucas take the company from you, then she divorces him. Under Indiana law, business assets acquired during marriage are subject to equitable division. She could claim 40 to 50% of its value. I did the math. $850,000, 40 to 50%, 340 to 425,000. So she was going to help him steal from me, I said, and then steal from him? Yes. I stood there looking out at the street. My son had betrayed me for her. He'd forged my signature, spread lies about my competence, tried to take everything Eleanor and I built, and the woman he did it for was planning to take half and walk away. Lucas was guilty of everything, but he was also being used. Part of me wanted to call him and warn him. Another part wanted him to see it exactly the way I was going to show him. Samuel, I said, don't tell anyone about this yet. Not Andrew, not Evan, no one. What are you thinking? I want to save it for the right moment. Can you get copies of those divorce filings? I already have them. Good. I want a meeting Wednesday evening, 6 o'clock, at my house. Lucas, Claire, you as my attorney. I'm laying everything out at once, every lie, every forged document, every piece of evidence. Then, at the end, I'll put those divorce papers on the table and let Lucas see what he destroyed his relationship with me for. Samuel was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Wednesday at 6. I'll be there. I hung up and looked around my kitchen, the dining table where Lucas used to do his homework, the counter where Eleanor made coffee every morning. Wednesday at 6, at the same table where we ate Sunday dinners when he was a boy. Now it would be where I showed him exactly what he tried to take, and exactly what his wife planned to take from him. The letter went out Monday afternoon, certified mail, precise legal language, a formal demand. By Tuesday morning, they knew I was serious. Samuel drafted it with care. Cease all false statements regarding my mental competence. Retract all communications sent to business partners and professional contacts. Appear Wednesday at 6 p.m. with legal counsel present. Failure to comply would result in litigation for defamation, fraud, and attempted theft of business assets. I signed it. Samuel mailed it. Then we waited. Tuesday morning at 10:30, I was in my home office when I saw Lucas's car pull up. He sat there with the engine running in the February cold. I could see his silhouette through the windshield. He stared at the house for 22 minutes. I watched from the window. He never opened the door. He never got out. Finally, he drove away. I never went outside. At 3:45 that afternoon, my phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. We need to talk before Wednesday. This is getting out of control. Let's work this out. I stared at it for a full minute, then typed my reply. You told me not to contact you. I respected that. If you want to talk, Wednesday at 6 p.m. with Samuel present. Not before. I hit send. He didn't respond. Wednesday arrived cold and gray. I spent the morning reviewing documents with Samuel at his office. Every forged signature, every false statement to partners, every step of the timeline showing premeditation. At the bottom of the stack sat the divorce filing, Miller and Shaw, retainer dated February 10th, $7,500 from Claire's separate account. At 5:30, I drove home to Butler Tarkington. The house was quiet. I walked through the rooms Eleanor and I had shared, the kitchen where we made coffee, the living room where we watched the evening news, the dining room where we raised our son. At 5:50, I cleared the dining table, the folder in the center, 2 chairs across from me, Samuel's chair to my right, 4 water glasses, nothing else. The table where we once ate Sunday dinners now looked like a courtroom. Samuel arrived at 5:55, set down his briefcase, and reviewed the papers one last time. We didn't talk. Everything would be said soon enough. At 6:02, a car pulled into the driveway. 2 minutes late, a small power play. Lucas knocked. I opened the door. No greeting, no handshake. I gestured toward the dining room. Come in, sit down. Claire entered first, confident, head high, wearing a black blazer like she was headed to a board meeting. She sat directly across from me and met my eyes without flinching. Lucas followed, looking tired, thinner than I remembered. He wouldn't look at me. He sat beside his wife and stared at the table. Samuel took his seat to my right, legal pad open, pen ready. They sat across from me. My son, his wife, the folder between us. 40 years of being a father, 30 years of building a business, 3 years without Eleanor's guidance. All of it led to this moment. I looked at Lucas one last time, my boy, the child Eleanor and I raised in this house. Then I opened the folder, and I began. 4 days ago, you sent me a text message. You told me I was out of Hale Properties. I trusted you, Lucas. I brought you into this business because I wanted you to have what your mother and I built, and you tried to take it from me. Lucas opened his mouth to speak. I raised one hand. You'll have your turn. Right now, you'll listen. I pulled the first document from the folder. The LLC amendment with Claire's name added as managing member. This was filed with the county clerk on February 10th. The signature at the bottom is supposed to be mine. It isn't. Look at the capital H. Look at the spacing. Someone forged my signature on a legal document. That is fraud, Lucas. I watched his face. He looked at the signature, then at me. No denial. I pulled the next document. 3 months ago, you and Claire went to Andrew Cole. You told him I was having memory problems. You asked him to help you move assets into your names. Andrew refused. You never went back, because I wasn't having memory problems. You were lying. I pulled out the financial summary. 30 years of growth. The $850,000 portfolio Eleanor and I built from nothing. Your mother, Lucas. My voice caught. This business was hers, as much as it was mine. Every property, every tenant, every dollar. And 3 years after she died, you tried to erase her legacy. Lucas's eyes were wet, but I wasn't finished. I reached into the folder and pulled out a yellow envelope. I held it for a moment, then slid it across the table to him. There's one more thing you need to know about your wife. Lucas stared at the envelope, then at me. Slowly, he opened it. I watched his face as he read. The retainer agreement, Miller and Shaw, the date at the top. He read it once, then again. His lips moved. Marital dissolution, he said quietly. $7,500. February 10th, 2 weeks before you sent me that text message. Claire hired a divorce attorney and paid the retainer from her own separate account, I said. She was planning to leave you before you ever tried to take my company. Lucas turned slowly toward his wife. This isn't real. Tell me this isn't real. Claire said nothing. Her face stayed perfectly calm. Under Indiana law, I continued, business assets acquired during marriage are subject to equitable division. If you had succeeded in taking Hale Properties, Claire could have filed for divorce and claimed 40 to 50% of its value, $340,000 to $425,000. That was her plan. Help you steal from me, then steal from you. Lucas stood up, the papers crushed in his fist. When he spoke, his voice was barely recognizable. I destroyed my relationship with my father for you. He was shaking. I forged documents. I lied to people who trusted me. I tried to take everything he built for you, and you were planning to divorce me the whole time. His voice broke on the last word. He slammed his fist onto the table. The water glasses jumped. Claire didn't move. Her face was stone. I watched my son pass through every stage of grief in a matter of minutes. Denial, anger, bargaining. Now he hovered between rage and complete devastation. The woman he destroyed his family for had been planning to destroy him. The silence stretched. Lucas stood there breathing hard, papers crushed in his hand. Claire sat motionless. Then, without any change in her expression, she spoke. Her voice was calm, too calm, like she was commenting on the weather. I'm done here. Claire picked up her purse and stood. Lucas looked up at her. Claire! She looked down at him, her face unchanged. No guilt, no shame, no emotion. What? She said. Lucas stared at her, waiting for something. An explanation, a denial, anything. She let the silence linger. Then she smiled, cold and precise. Did I ever love you, Lucas? No, not once. His face drained of color. Were you easy? She added quietly. Pathetically, she turned to me. You almost won, Mr. Hale. Almost. Then she walked to the door. Her heels clicked across the hardwood. She opened it without looking back. I heard her car door close, the engine start, and then she was gone. The silence lasted 15 seconds, maybe 20. Lucas sank back into his chair, staring at the table. I stared at the door she'd just walked through. Samuel Reed spoke quietly beside me. I've documented everything said here tonight. Every statement, every admission. I can testify to all of it if necessary. I nodded, then looked at my son. Samuel will draft the documents. You will sign a complete relinquishment of all claims to Hale Properties LLC, or we file fraud charges by Friday. Lucas didn't look up. His voice was barely a whisper. I'll sign. I turned toward the door. Dad, he said behind me. I stopped, but didn't turn around. You chose this, Lucas. You sent that text. You forged my signature. You tried to take what your mother and I built together. I'm sorry she used you, but you still chose to betray me. Her cruelty doesn't erase your guilt. It just makes you a fool as well as a thief. I walked to the door. Samuel will contact you about the signing. Don't come back to this house. I walked outside to my truck and sat in the February cold. Through the window I could see Lucas still at the dining table, head in his hands, Samuel packing up his briefcase. I started the engine and drove away. Lucas did not call, did not text, did not try to explain or apologize again. The following Monday, Samuel called me at 9 a.m. It's done. Lucas signed everything. No arguments, no negotiations. Hale Properties is yours completely, legally, permanently. Thank you, Samuel, I said, and hung up. I sat in my office. The business was mine. The properties were mine. Everything Eleanor and I had built was secure, but victory did not feel triumphant. It felt like surviving a disaster, barely, and the wreckage was everywhere. 2 weeks later, Lucas showed up at my office, holding a folder. Inside, he said, was his future, a business plan. He wanted $25,000 to prove he had changed. I looked at the folder in his hands. Then I looked at him. No. He blinked. Dad, if you would just look at it. No, I said again. If your plan is solid, you'll find other investors. If it's not, you'll understand why I said no. I am not your safety net anymore, Lucas. You cut that line yourself. I turned back to my desk. Behind me, I heard him set the folder down on a chair, then footsteps. The door opened. The door closed. I never saw the business plan. I never asked what it was. 3 months later, in June, I closed on the 8-unit apartment building near Butler University. I owned it outright, 100%, no partners, no family involved. I hired a professional property management company to handle day-to-day operations. Dennis Wright agreed to serve as my financial successor if anything happened to me. The business was thriving. 6 months after the confrontation, I started hearing things through mutual acquaintances. Lucas was working multiple jobs, waiting tables, delivering packages, retail, living alone in a small apartment on the east side. He never tried to contact me. Claire had left Indiana. The divorce was finalized. She got nothing because there was nothing to take. I heard she moved somewhere south, maybe Texas, maybe Florida. I didn't care. I hoped whoever she targeted next would see through her faster than my son did. 1 year after that February text, I was at the 8-unit building on a Saturday morning, fixing a leaky faucet in Unit 3. The tenant, a nursing student named Emily, brought me coffee. She thanked me for coming personally instead of sending a contractor. Most landlords wouldn't do this themselves, she said. I like to stay connected to the work, I told her. After I finished, I sat in my truck in the parking lot, looking at the building. Eleanor and I used to talk about buying a place like this, somewhere to build equity and help young people just starting out. We never got the chance together, but I was doing it now. Margaret, I thought, we're doing this together. I'm still doing it. I hope you're proud. I thought about Lucas, too. Wondered if he was okay, if he had enough to eat, if he was warm, if he was safe. Then I reminded myself, it wasn't my responsibility anymore. People ask if I'll ever forgive him. I tell them I already have. Forgiveness does not mean trust. It doesn't mean a relationship. It means I stopped letting his choices define my life. I protected what Eleanor and I built. That is not cruelty. That is self-respect. Trust without boundaries is an invitation for harm to walk through your door. You can love your family and still refuse to be their insurance policy. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is say no to the person you love most. If my story helps even one person set boundaries, recognize manipulation, protect what they've built, then maybe losing my son taught me something worth sharing. I drove home that Saturday afternoon with the windows down. June air was warm. Indianapolis looked beautiful. The business was secure. The properties were full. The tenants were happy. I had survived, and I was still standing. That was enough. Looking back, I wonder what Eleanor would think. Would she be proud, or tell me I should have fought harder for Lucas? The truth is, this story taught me something I wish I had learned earlier. Trust is built over years, but destroyed in seconds. Once it's gone, you cannot force it back, just because someone shares your blood. Here's what I learned, and what I hope you take from these grandparent stories. Love your family, but don't let love make you blind. Protect what you build. Set boundaries before you need them. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. I pray every night for Lucas. I pray he finds his way. I pray the lessons weren't too expensive. But my job is no longer to rescue him. It is to honor Eleanor and share these grandparent stories. These stories aren't easy to tell, but they are true. And truth, painful as it is worth telling.